It's an event run by ourselves, Britannic, in partnership with Avaya this morning. What we're going to be doing is really looking at the whole piece around unified communications. So what is it? What does it mean? But more importantly, how does it benefit? How does it benefit business? There's always a lot of acronyms in our industry, so we shall try and steer clear of these things and make it as clear as possible. What I'd like to do is just really start off by talking through some of the changes in the marketplace before we get on to really the meat of where we are today, of the latest technologies, how and where they can be introduced into an organisation, why, what sort of benefits can be achieved. And for us, it's a really exciting time. You know, there is a huge change in our industry. As a business, Britannic Technologies, we were formed in 1984, so a very well established and founded organisation in the telecoms world. And throughout that time, there's been a lot of changes. So we've seen the move from analog telephone systems to digital, the introduction of IP, which I'll talk through, really what that is and what it means briefly shortly, and to really where we are today, which is the move to hosted services, managed services, and applications from the cloud and the data center. So a really big change in the industry, and some great new exciting technologies that are coming to the fore, that we're implementing for customers to help to reduce cost, improve productivity, enhance customer service, build resilience to support business continuity into what people are doing, and create more of an agile working environment. So the idea of location independence communication platforms are widely available today. So over our time in the industry, we have really been at the forefront of this change. There's lots of examples of innovation that I can share with you, lots of great case studies, right from systems integration and development, a lot of strength within the call center marketplace, to where we are today, which is next generation networks. You know, you've probably heard about BT21CN networks, so a lot of change going on in that space as well. I'll talk through a few points around that later on, and really what does it mean and what are the opportunities and how can you benefit. And another great acronym, a TLA for us, three-letter acronym, is SIP. So we'll talk through what SIP is, what it means, and some of the applications that can be deployed through this protocol as well. I'm very pleased to say that in addition to very long-standing relationships that we have with customers, so many spanning 10, 15, 20 years and above, we've also been recognised in this industry for our skill sets and our capabilities. So we've won major awards for Converged Reseller, Integrator of the Year, and so on. And I think this is the challenge that we're seeing today. Is there's a lot of change in the technology space. There's always new applications coming to the fore. We'll hear from Roger shortly around the impact and introduction of social networking technologies as well. So what we're doing is seeing a vast array of components, infrastructure changes, and the challenges to glue all of those things together and align it with business requirements. So that's really where we're focused, is to take a step back, look at all this technology change that's going on, and then select the components that match where you are today, but also where you want to get to. And our challenge is to explain it in simple terms what the technology actually does, and then manage a smooth migration and introduction into the business. So we've got very well established strategic partnerships that really span the depth and breadth of the ICT industry. and very pleased to be here with Avaya today. We also understand the importance of structure and quality in the way in which we work. One of the aspects I'll talk through is program management and change management, because changing technology comes with risk. There's a challenge to work out how to get it right and what order to undertake these changes within. So as a business, we've got very well established programs to help to manage the smooth migration of new technology. Our ethos is definitely focused around the customer, so what we do is we build teams around our clients, spanning the different disciplines that are needed to really work as a team across our business and our customers' businesses. Okay, so the agenda, I'm shortly handing over to Roger. So just before I do, I'll just pick up on very quickly some of the changes. So who in the room already uses IP telephony? Okay, so most people have gone through that transition. We started providing IP telephony now 2002. So we've seen most people start to adopt or introduce that technology. I think for me one of the big benefits was the ability to link people irrespective of location. And when I talk through later on the sort of models that we're delivering, where it's more than telephony, it's also looking at application from the core, from the cloud, from the data center, how we're able to yes, deliver voice as part of that, but how we're able to deliver it anywhere in the world over what we've seen as the introduction of new network technologies. So things such as DSL connections. I don't think there's many people in this room that won't have ADSL at home. It's still amazing to understand that there's huge swathes of the country that don't have broadband connections, both at home and also for business. The government have got a big drive to get more and more people. In fact, the drive is to get everyone online before the end of 2012. So technology that we take for granted these days of broadband is still unbelievably not available for everybody. But what we're seeing is new technologies coming to the fore in the network space. So Annex M, fibre connections, Ethernet over the first mile, and I'll talk through those and what they mean. But the whole point is that these new data networks, the bandwidth has increased dramatically and the cost has shrunk. So it makes it easier to start to share applications, start to change the way in which people work, and then deliver the right infrastructure, the right motorways to be able to connect. Unified communications. I think we could probably have a great competition in the room as to if we could actually find anyone who could give us the same definition of unified comms. There's 1,001, if not more, definitions of unified comms. I pulled this one off the internet. I think it was good old Wikipedia. But if you look at it, it's really picking up on some of the thoughts and concepts over many years. So multi-channel communications, CRM technology, bringing together all these different facets of communications into a single infrastructure device, make it available for people, spanning presence, spanning voice, email, SMS, web, and so on. And one of the aspects that we'll talk through is SIP, and that can't be underestimated. The protocol, how it's actually gluing these technologies together, and presence, which we'll show you some stuff working later on through Flare, is to actually look at the availability of people and get an understanding of whether people are online, if they're in meetings, what devices people are on. And SIP is in essence the glue that brings everything together, and then presence is in essence a process that shows what people are doing, where they are, and what they're using. And importantly, we're in a world where people are looking at cost savings. So how can I reduce cost? The network connections are definitely reduced, and we're seeing the ability to help customers remodel what they're doing with the network, what they're doing from the point of view of call management and call routing, and deliver significant savings as well. So, cost savings have been a great drive to help to introduce this new technology, which has got much more benefits for organisations. Okay, so what I'd like to do is to hand over to Roger Jones from Avaya to talk through innovation in converging technologies.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you've had enough bacon sandwiches and coffee. I'm just going to spend, Jonathan hits me, about 40 minutes. If he doesn't, much longer, I expect. So I'm expecting a beating at some point. Going to talk about what's new in Avaya, what we're up to, some of the innovations that we're working on. So before we talk about Avaya, let's just put up a few pictures and symbols on the slide here of some of the things that you may have already started to think about, some of the things that are concerning you greatly. How do we deal with this thing called social media? How do we improve customer performance? How do we deal with all the new devices that our users want to bring into their organisation? The whole consumerisation of IT. How do we bring that alongside our focus on unified communications here? There's so many things and so many different aspects that you could be concerned with, are concerned with. So we really have to try and think about all of the different aspects here and all of the parts where we can add value, particularly from a communications point of view. So we're going to try and cover some of these points in my presentation. Just before we do all of that, let's have a little bit of a look at some information from Gartner. So this is Gartner's top 5 CEO imperatives from last year, and as you'd expect, improving business process was number 1, reducing costs is number 2, all of these good things, analytics to understand what's going on, the nirvana of improving your workforce effectiveness, and of course attracting new customers. So that was last year. Gartner predict for 2013, so over 18 months ago, that the focus for these CEOs is going to change. And we obviously have to work with these thought processes in mind, but I'm very happy as a technologist to see that the number 1 is all around innovation. And they are expecting that innovation in creating new products and services is really where the CEO focus is going to be in 2013. Business process is still there. It's dropped from its number 1, attracting new customers has gone up, and of course competitive advantage. So as we come out of the last few years of difficulty, people are looking at how we can innovate, how we can add new services and improve our competitiveness. So hopefully most of these things are reasonably obvious, but we do think that there is a mindset change going on at the top of our customer organisations, and there certainly is inside Avaya. So here's this chap here called Jan, I won't try and pronounce his second name, a Norwegian person in the definition of innovation, which I quite like, so I thought I'd pop that in there. We're not actually, innovation isn't about inventing stuff, it's about taking those inventions and bringing them to market, bringing them out as useful solutions. And that's really the focus of what we're doing at Avaya. So we have more than 4 focus areas, but these are our critical focus areas that we are looking at Avaya. So customer connections, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Customer experience optimization, which I don't have time to cover that off today. It's not really my expert area, but that's certainly how we can optimize contact center operation, how we can improve that customer experience for people using contact centers. I'm going to spend a good part of today's presentation talking about the third part here, which is about enterprise user experience. That's quite critical. And of course, with our integration of our new friends from Nortel last year, we have a fantastic solution around communications enabled workflows, which is a product called the Agile Communication Environment in Avaya, or ACE. Again, I don't have lots of time to talk about that today, so we're going to focus on these 2 innovation areas. The first one is just to give you some ideas of some of the things that we're working on. The second one is a little bit more detailed around the enterprise user experience. So most of you, unless you've been in some form of cave over the last few years, will have obviously started to use, understand, or not understand what all this social media stuff is around. Some of you may feel sceptical, some of you may spend many hours of the day. And I'm still trying to get over a overheard conversation in a Marks and Spencer's food store in Sheffield train station where the two young ladies on the till were talking about how many hours they'd spent on Facebook the night before, and I'm thinking, I thought I didn't have a life. But anyway, they obviously have less of a life than I do. One of the things is absolutely, is really quite obvious that there is a very large proportion of the global audience who are now using these different social media platforms, and a traditional contact centre has no touch points, it has no awareness of these things. So we've been creating something called the social media engine in Avaya, which allows your business to connect to these social media systems, sources, cloud-based applications, and look at them, mine them, scan them, search them, looking for keywords, looking for things that might mention your organisation, your type of service or product, anything that you want to do. The social media engine can sit there and it can use a lot of intelligent capabilities and bring the relevant tweets, likes, Facebook thingies to the attention of your agent in a blended way, in the same way that you may be blending email and a web chat solution from your website into your agents today. This allows us to bring in that type of customer contact, customer interaction. We can then, using the agents and of course some intelligent technology, choose to reply to those interactions in the same way, in a different way depending on the contact information you have for those different individuals or customers. So we see this as a very much an expanding requirement for many customers, particularly those in a business to consumer environment. Yes, there are some business to business integrations as well. Mostly at the moment the focus is on business to consumer. We also have the ability with the social media engine to look at more traditional types of blogs and RSS feeds out there on the internet as well. This of course does require some specific programming. You need to choose which blogs that you want to monitor. It isn't going to go and Google the entire internet and bring that level of information to you, but it is entirely possible to do that. So that's certainly something that we're working on at Avaya. For those of us who are probably a little bit less likely to be sociable in my case, and more likely to be focused on I need to do something specific, we're also working on the ability to provide different channels into contact centres. Now here's an example of a service request into an internet service provider which is being provided as an app on a smartphone. And if you think about it, if your internet has stopped working, you probably are going to use your smartphone to be able to connect into this type of environment. So here we can do quite a lot of the work that would traditionally be done by an agent or an IVR in a question and answer process, and we can take a user through those steps, troubleshooting, in this case their issue, and then bringing it to the point where we've gathered all the information and we can then connect that person to a live agent. So trying to innovate and think of different ways of bringing customers in a useful, intelligent way into the contact centre. It's a lot of the things that are happening in our Galway Innovation Centre. After the merger with Nortel, the majority of our contact centre innovation and technology is all created in Galway. So great things if you want to go and visit the R&D labs there, and of course bring some of the black stuff afterwards. It's very difficult to go there and back in one day. It's a shame. So to start to use some of these tools, it does help if you've done a little bit of work on the stuff that's sitting in the middle of your enterprise. Now this is an extreme example of a silly PowerPoint diagram, but we are, I find this on a day-by-day, week-by-week basis, organisations that have a network infrastructure made up of many components in a very complex way. Now I have a customer meeting tomorrow with a a well-known retail chain who shall remain nameless. They've got over 300 stores and they've got over 300 PBXs. I don't know how many different varieties they have. And that's just voice connectivity. Their point of sale solution is of course a lot more straightforward than that. But how you take a large multi-site organisation forward when they have massively disparate platforms, systems, solutions, different capabilities associated with those. So I think we all, regardless of our scale and size, need to start to think about how we can rationalise this, how we can simplify it. And the key part of the Avaya solution here is the Aura architecture, which we're not going to go through in any great detail today, but this is our SIP-based architecture which allows us to continue to reuse the existing investments here. So there are a few technical requirements to ensure a good level of connectivity. It's not too hard. We have this SIP-based connection and routing engine in the middle called Aura, and then we have the centralized communication applications and management capability at the top. And the great thing about this architecture is it is split into 3 levels, and those 3 different levels can be in physically different geographical places, and they can also be hosted in various degrees. So you could host the top 2 lines, or you could host the top line here. The bottom line is probably existing equipment you already have on premise, and so that's to some degree that if you want to retain that technology, that's probably going to remain on premise. But this simplification and open standards connectivity between applications is a critical step on the way to be able to use some of these different technologies. So just to put up some highlights of the Aura architecture, it allows us to simplify our dial plan and infrastructure into a redundant SIP-based core. It allows us to connect applications to that core and distribute those applications to many, many locations. It has this great marketing term here, multimodal, which basically means it's voice, video, instant messaging, all the other types of communication we want. It's a move forward from traditional telephony and an enhancement on today's IP telephony technology, and the fact that it's much more of an active type of architecture, and so the ability to have instantaneous failover is significantly improved. It's open standards. We interoperate from a PBX perspective with Cisco, Siemens, Alcatel. We're very close to finishing off our testing with Astra Ericsson as well. And so there's great interoperability from a core voice perspective, but also from other applications. And as I said before, it is cloud services ready. So we're just going to have a little dive off into the world of cloud. Avaya have an architecture for hosted stroke cloud-based solutions. We are not going to become a cloud service provider ourselves. We are providing the pieces of software and technologies to allow us to do that. And we really focus our architecture into 3 components, which we're going to talk about. Our core heritage of the enterprise communications, the inter-enterprise communications is part of that. How we start to deliver applications from a centrally hosted environment is a newer part of the solution, which we're going to talk about. And of course, connecting out to hosted platforms such as our good friend Britannic is a crucial part of that architecture. So let's quickly, just on a single slide, more clicks than necessary here. From an inter-enterprise point of view, customers can host Avaya or architectures in their premise if they wish to, and use the cloud, the SIP capability in the cloud to connect them together. We have the capability to come out to multi-vendor environments. Of course, many of these Avaya parts of the solution can be uplifted up into that hosted environment if you wish to do that. So, going to this Avaya solution does not limit us. As I say, we have interoperability across a whole range of vendors, allowing us to provide a seamless solution. If we then go and look at the application marketplace, and we're going to talk about these things in a little bit more detail on the next few slides. So we have premise-based applications which require some form of endpoint to run on. These include things like the Avaya Flare experience, which we have some here, and we're going to talk about a little bit more in a few Second, we're talking about our workflow engines, the agile communication environment. Of course, we're talking about good old telephones. Then we have a brand new solution, the first of many solutions, the software as a service solution. This is something called Web.li, which we're going to explain to you in a second. Many of you will, as I get to the end of the presentation, think, Roger's talking about video games. This isn't really very critical or very business critical. I'm going to try and convince you otherwise at the end. I don't know if it's going to work. And of course, we have a range of business applications, traditional business applications around contact center and voicemail and conferencing, where you can host them entirely in the cloud, or you can connect existing premise-based equipment which has some of these capabilities. For example, the Avaya IP Office provides you with voicemail and it provides you with conferencing locally. We can connect that back to a larger solution or a hosted solution in the core. So we're not prescribing everything in the premise or everything in the cloud. We have the ability to do these different hybrid solutions depending on your business requirement, your existing platforms, and how you want to move forward with those. So as I said, the third part of this is very, very important. Now, I've put Amazon and Force.com or Salesforce.com on here as examples. It doesn't mean that we are working with those two organisations in any formal way. We obviously have a very, very fantastic relationship with Britannic, with their NetX platform here. But the ability to provide those services, trunks, applications, communications capability from a hosted environment are a critical part of this whole architecture. So I know Jonathan's going to talk about this a little bit more later on, so I won't talk over his slides. But the ability to connect into these to bring some of those services through to the other components in the architecture are quite critical. And of course, we have to have the connections out to the various different service providers. Again, Britannic featuring here is they are now a service provider for these types of service alongside some of the usual suspects that we have here on the slide. So this is very much moving into an IP-based, SIP-based architecture, allowing us to federate into a range of different solutions and service providers and open standards as well. So that's great. Let's move this on to the users now. Apologies for the ridiculous slides. I was having one of those days on Monday when I decided to make a daft slide. And this is basically because I've been fiddling around all weekend with various different pieces of technology, and I've got some new solar panels on my roof, but that's a different discussion. But it involved all sorts of weird geeking to make it do what I wanted it to do. And if you think about your personal life, outside of your work life today, you're using lots and lots of cloud services. There's some name them here. You're getting emails, web links, documents, tweets, SMSs from all over the place. They're raining down on you. You've got so much communication going on. And then you move into the work environment, it may be slightly different. You've got tons of interfaces, tons of applications that you can use to work with customers, to work with suppliers, to work with colleagues. As I say, it's cloudy now. There's clouds coming out of every different part of the world. Monday, Apple announced iMessage, which is competing with BlackBerry Messenger, which is competing with about 16 zillion different IM platforms and SMS. I mean, how many different ways do we need to communicate? And how do we start to make sense of which is the right tool to use to communicate to a certain type of person? You know, it's just getting probably a little bit much, and we're spending lots of time opening and closing windows and looking in different directories to try and find the person you want to talk to. My mate Paul, should I ring him up? I'm a bloke, I don't talk on the phone very much. Should I email him? Or should I SMS him? I wonder if he's on IM. I was on Skype, but I deleted it because Microsoft bought it, so I can't use that. There must be, and it's just too confusing. So we need to shine a little bit of light on this and see if we can start to simplify this in a way. Use the finger instead. There we go. So we'll bring the sun out of this, we'll get rid of the umbrella, and we'll try and think about communications in a way that you would if you were actually standing somebody. You want to talk to an individual, and once you know who you want to talk to, having to go through all these different interfaces to try and decide which is the best way to do it is A, wasting a load of time, B, confusing, and we're just doing it, we're not really realising. We really just want to talk to or communicate with someone. So we are reinventing the way that we unify the front end of these communications applications. It's a little bit different. It comes under the name of Avaya Flare. And the whole concept here is you want to communicate with a person or a group of people, and once you've selected that person from a contacts directory, you then choose which method of communication you want to use. So we're almost turning this on its head. Rather than thinking about the tool to find the person and seeing if they're on that type of communications platform, we're going to flip that back around to how it should be. We want to communicate with the person and then choose the tool. So how does this work? Well, we are in the process of delivering this thing called the Flare experience across a range of different endpoints. We have two of our devices here, which I'm going to explain to you how the interface works. Now, I should point out, this picture in the middle of this telephone is a little bit marketing, okay? So please don't take that as the gospel. I didn't make that slide, and I was thinking about changing it, but there we go. It's not quite like that at the moment. However, the ability to use this type of interface on a tablet device, on a traditional laptop type device, and also smartphones is certainly on its way. So how does it work? What does it do? Why are we talking about it? Is it really interesting to you? Well, first of all, we take our contacts from a range of different feeds, sources here, and we arrange them into a single contacts directory, a Rolodex type of directory. And if we can extract pictures, such as Simon's done here, you'll be able to see on the Flare devices extracted pictures and put them in there to humanise it a little bit. We then find the person that we want to talk to, in this case it's a young lady here called Jen, and we pull Jen into the centre of the screen with our finger, and we now have a decision on whether we want to call, video, instant message, email, or use some form of social networking solution. We also have some presence indication for this young lady here called Jen, and so we can see that she's not on video, so we're going to make a phone call. So we tap the call icon and it opens up this concept of a spotlight, which is a little bit cheesy, but as the world seems to be overrun by the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent, the spotlight seems to be quite cool at the moment. Probably a little bit too old to understand, but anyway. The spotlight indicates that we're now having a communication with Jen and we're chatting away. If I want to add Jonathan into the call, I sit down in my contacts, I pull Jonathan into the spotlight and says, do you want to add him to the call? Click yes, and away we go. So we have a very graphical way of bringing different individuals from different places into a common session or communication. So this is the base concept of the Flare interface. We've also got a whole range of different pieces of information and stuff running along the top bar. And on the left-hand side, we have our application span, where we can have all sorts of different apps running. And what we've done is we've put them into a consistent look and feel to match up with our contacts fan on the right-hand side. So what we've done now is we've opened up our calendar, which is going into my Exchange calendar. Nothing new. Don't have to go and build a new calendar environment. And it's bringing my appointments up onto the fan, and actually it moves around as the day progresses. So we can see that at 12 o'clock I've got a catch-up meeting coming up. I can tap on that, open it up. I can see that I've invited a whole range of people to come onto this call. I've added some context in here, some information into my invite. And now I can drag those users into the spotlight and hit go. And if those users are on a video endpoint and accept the video call, up they hop. And if they're on a standard phone or a mobile somewhere, they will come through as an audio contact. We've now created a collaboration or a conference using the Flare interface, and all we had to do was use the finger and do that. There was no dialing in, there was no PIN codes, none of that stuff. And all these people had a call sent out to them, and they could choose to answer the call or not. So we can now start to collaborate using this very simple graphical interface. If a few of the people want to go into a separate call to discuss something, we can open the second spotlight, drag them into that second spotlight, and they're on a separate call. And we can have two separate calls running. They might weigh in and say, Roger, can I come back? And you go, yep, and you can flip the two spotlights together and join the people back into a call. So very easy navigation, collaboration, moving people in and out. Someone says, Roger, you're always doing whizzy PowerPoint, can we see the slides you created? So I pick the slides off the invite, I drag the slides into the spotlight. Anybody who has a web conference capable endpoint will have this popped up. Do you want to join the web conference? Click yes, and web conference will load and the slides will appear. You might decide to record the call, so we can find our call recording app on the left-hand side, drag that into the spotlight, and it adds that into the session. So we've got this whole concept of bringing things into this collaboration. And that's really what the Flare experience is all about. The other thing it does, and this is the bit we're working very hard on, is context. So when you go to each individual contact, it's going to have your communications log of your different communications with that person, whether it was a call, an IM, or an email. And it's going to allow you to do all of that context type of stuff. If you had a conference call, and it's going to bring the slides that you used in as a link and context into that discussion. Now, today we have the flares here. These are on our Avaya desktop video devices, which are HD video conferencing endpoints with stereo sound and HD webcam, Bluetooth, some Wi-Fi's and all those sorts of things. But we do appreciate that a lot of people will view this as rather an extravagant purchase for their personal use, certainly for an executive or for a conferencing type of environment. So what we're doing now is we're porting the Flare application onto the iPad as the first instance. So you'll be able to use your iPad with the Flare app to make and construct these various different conference and collaboration sessions straight from your consumer device. It's going to use the SIP protocol over Wi-Fi to do this. You have the choice of whether you want to just talk at the microphone and use a speaker or use a headset on here. So we're taking some of these advanced collaboration technologies and delivering them to a range of different platforms. So the iPad and the Windows PC will be the first two third-party platforms we're going to support. That will be followed by Mac OS X and also by other Android tablets probably early next year. We're very close to having the iPad solution demonstrable. A couple of the guys in the office have got it. I was really hoping to have it today. I haven't quite got it yet, so we're not able to demonstrate it today. So before I go any further, this is a concept screenshot. I don't want anybody to think that this is the current product, okay? But this is a concept screenshot of talking about the context. And so you've launched into a call, and you're having a call with one person or multiple people, and what we're working on now is some advanced context engines which come up and link the conversation you're having to documentation, presentations, Word documents, websites you may have viewed. It's going to bring up on the top left-hand side people who have an interest or are connected to the person or the subject that you're talking about. So really, some of the innovation that's happening at Avaya at the moment is building context engines to allow us to understand the wider scope of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and help you bring resources to you, feed them to you. Quite a lot of my life, it seems, is spent providing technical support to my colleagues and my valued business partners, and I actually thought about changing my name to Google at one point because people ring me up and I Google search things for them when they can do it themselves. So I'm actually a context engine. I only just realised this. What we're trying to do, hopefully, is take me out of the loop of this and get the systems to do that context searching for you and bring them up onto the screen. Well, I'm not doing too badly for time. So my final part here is a little bit left field, and it will certainly be a little bit left field for some of you. I talked earlier about our software as a service capabilities that we just launched, and this is something called Web.Alive. And I appreciate that some of you will view this as some form of computer game. and there is a perception that it could be. Let me try and explain to you. I've got some more screenshots coming up. So, if you are trying to have a multi-party collaboration when you are not in the same room, you're going to move to an audio conference or to a video conference. They're the usual two ways of doing this in a remote way. Audio conferences are great for short, sharp discussions and also broadcasts. They're very good for broadcasts. We use them a lot in Avaya. And it can be coupled with a web conference to keep you vaguely interested in what's actually being said. And then, of course, you've got the video conference, where, as you know, there's nowhere to hide. And the first time I used my iPad to talk to my dad on his iPad, because he's an iFather now, we used FaceTime across the internet, and I realised quite quickly that this was a massive mistake, because he started asking loads of questions about the iPad, and keeping the look up to my face was really difficult on video, which of course you can get away with on the phone. You can't do it on video, so there's nowhere to hide. So maybe video isn't for me, I don't know. My mum was very scared of it, she ran off immediately. This is again a slightly different way of doing it. You can actually appear as an avatar in an environment, and it has this positional or spatial audio, which means that as you walk into a room in the environment, if there are people already there and they're talking, you can hear them. As you walk out of the room, and they get quieter and quieter, and you walk into another room and you're talking to a different group of people. It's actually like being in the office, but you can exit by hitting exit quite quickly rather than have to hide when you want to leave the office quickly. So this is an immersive collaboration tool. Okay? It's a cloud-based solution, and all you need to access it from your environment is a web browser. It does help if you have a headset, but you can use the speakers and microphone on a laptop or a computer if you wish to do that. So, what does it allow you to do? It allows you to enter meetings, conferences. As the chair of the conference, you can upload presentations into Web Alive, and you can all sit there and listen to a presentation. You can ask the presenter questions. You can have side conversations with the people sitting next to you. You can move to one side of the room and speak quietly if one of your colleagues is sitting next to you. It is a little bit like being in the real world. But there is no infrastructure on your end apart from the web browser with a little bit of audio capability, and the whole solution is hosted in the cloud. So, just a couple of screenshots here. For those of you who do find it interesting, if you go in and Google up Bob Metcalfe's inaugural lecture in the University in Texas, the place has eluded me slightly. Bob Metcalfe, for those of you who don't know, and there's no reason why you should, if you do, you're on an Uber geek, is the inventor of Ethernet. So, an unsung to many, but a very important person. And he has become he was one of the founders of 3Com, and they invented Ethernet. He has subsequently left HP and is now a professor at one of the Texas universities. And he did his inaugural lecture in the university, but they also used Web Alive to broadcast this out to various different university-connected people who couldn't be physically there. So this was actually used in a real environment. And if you Google it up, you'll see various reports and discussions around it as well. So it does look like a video game. I haven't found a big gun yet, but I'm sure it's there somewhere. But there's a whole range of different things you can use this for. And the reason I wanted to bring this to your attention today, that there are different ways of looking at things. If you're in the business of training many staff or many customers, if you're looking at attracting people to look at a product set, to look at something, this is a different and innovative way of doing it. And it really doesn't require any significant infrastructure on the part of the user. So certainly we're using it for meetings. I have a meeting on this on Friday. We're going to use Webinars Live on Friday to have an internal meeting, so we can conduct this in a more interesting and informative way. From a selling perspective, there's lots of opportunities where you can use this as a virtual showroom. You can bring people into the virtual showroom, and you can have agents, we can use that term, avatar standing there who you can address, and that addressing an avatar will connect you to an agent in your contact centre. So there's a whole range of different and innovative ways you can use this. And also as a learning tool. Now, we do a lot of web learning at Avaya, and maybe it's me, but the attention span is somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes before I get bored. In this environment, if you actually have a live avatar speaker speaking to you, it does tend to engage you more, it tends to keep your interest a lot higher. So, internal meetings, events, would you have preferred to have done this online, working from home rather than coming to the IOD today? Depends if we can get and watch the trip with the colour later, I suppose. But there's you can build these environments. This is actually based on a game engine called Unreal, and so if any of you have any young people who are your offspring or something who know how to do this, they can probably at a very cheap rate create these levels. University students looking for something to do, there's plenty of resources out there. Lenovo, and this is another thing if you want to Google this, when you get back to the office or get home, Google Lenovo Virtual Store or Virtual Showroom, it's one of the two, and this will take you to a Lenovo site, and it will ask you to download a plugin, which Avaya does. You can get in and you can go into the Lenovo store, you can wander around and you can look at the different laptops and technology devices they have, and if you do loiter long enough, almost certainly someone will come and talk to you. So you want them to keep moving. It's entirely up to you. And training. So this is a screenshot here of some training that we've been performing with IP Office, whereby we have an Avaya training theatre which you can go into, and there are training courses scheduled. And it's just different from doing the traditional PowerPoint web conference. But of course we can bring that slide-based training material into this environment. So that's it, folks. That's my slot. I'm finishing on time for a change. There is a link here. If you just go to web.alive on the Avaya website, you can create yourself an avatar. You can choose which gender you want to be. That's entirely up to you. You can dress yourself appropriately, and you can wander into the environment. You will bump into some people. Some of them strange, I'm sure. But some of them, there's not many Avaya people lurking there trying to tackle you to the ground, but there may be one or two. So that's me, thank you.